welcome back to Social Studies with Miss Wardell. Today we are talking about, remember in this chapter we're talking about the impact of these colonies, right? So today we're talking about the impact of geography in the southern colonies. Many Southerners lived in small family farms in the back country. However, large plantations were the backbone of the region's economy. Plantations were more like small villages than farms. Kitchens, workshops, and horses' stables surrounded the plantation house. Cooks, nannies, and slaves who worked in the house lived nearby, and field workers usually lived further away in small cabins. Labor. Planters needed a lot of workers to run their plantations. The cost of hiring white laborers would have been very high. Instead, most plantation owners used slave labor. Plantation owners bought African slaves from slave traders as part of the Atlantic Triangle trade, and most slaves worked in fields, planting, tending, and harvesting crops. Slaves also took care of livestock, cooked and cleaned, ran errands, and built structures in southern plantations. With agriculture, the rich soil and hot, damp climate were perfect for growing cash crops such as rice, tobacco, and indigo. The southern economy depended on agricultural trade, and many planters became wealthy selling their crops to Europe and the other colonies. Fascinating, huh? That a plantation is more really like a whole little small village because it had everything they needed. For critical thinking today, the graph shows the percentage of southern slaveholders in the 1860s census. So answer the questions. What percent of the Southern owned no slaves at all? Well, if I look and see owned no slaves, that was 75%. So you can write 75%. What percentage of Southerners owned slaves? Okay. Well, in order to figure that out, it says owned more than 20, owned 1, owned all of these owned. So what I need to do here is I need to add some things up. I need to add, let's see, I'm going to add 4, 13, 5, and 3. So I know 5 and 3 is 8, plus 4, 8, 9, let's see, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? And then I'm going to add the 13 to this 12. 3 and 2 is 5. 1 and 1 is 2. So 25% owned slaves, right? So the way I figured that out is I just added all of these up. What percentage of Southerners were probably plantation owners? Owners, 20 or more slaves. So here I'm looking for, that's 10 to 19, 2 to 9, 1 and 20. So 20 or more, that would be 3%. 3%. Does this data surprise you? Why or why not? So I want you to tell me, does it surprise you? Did you think that more would own slaves? What do you think? So we'll do that one for independent practice. Then we're going to take a look at point of view. Here it talks about reading each quotation and determining whether it was most likely said by a person who lived in a New England colony, a mid-Atlantic colony, or a southern colony. Okay? I raise wheat and corn for a living. I grow enough food to feed my family, and I have enough left over to sell the market after harvest. I transport my crops by boat to the market in Philadelphia. Well, that makes me think of, because the word Philadelphia here, that mid-Atlantic, right? Because it was near that mid-Atlantic. I'm going to say M-A here. 2, I'm moving from New England to the colonies, but I'm not sure where to settle. I learned to build ships in England. Oh, I'm moving from England. build ships in England, and I hope to find a job as soon as I arrive in America. I mean, I don't know. It could be New England, but I don't know. Let's read 3, come back to it. Years ago, my father was one of the first to arrive in the colonies. He gained land and built a large plantation. Aha. So this word plantation tells me that it's part of the southern. So if this is the southern, then this one has to be New England. Right? Okay. For each of these regions, identify an important aspect of its economy and describe the geographic characteristics that influence that economy. So, like, for example, in the southern geographic traits here, we might say that they had hot summers, right? And fertile soil. So this was really good for agriculture. Right? So we read about it being, focused more on agriculture because of these plantation houses, right? If I look back for the Mid-Atlantic here, impact of geography in the Mid-Atlantic. So here talked about, where they were busy with busy ports. They had carpenters. They had lumber, a lot of lumber crops, lumber and livestock, right? So this is known as the breadbasket. So over here for this there you go. This is Mid-Atlantic. They also had very rich soil because they were near the water, but their climate was milder. Right? They had mild climate. It wasn't quite as hot as the South. But here, they had lumber and livestock trade. So New England. So I don't know if you remember what they talked about with New England, but even if I don't know anything without even looking back, the further north I go, the colder it is. So I could say that they have a cold climate. Theirs was much, much colder, right? But then, what is it that they really did for the economy? What they do to gain money? Well, a lot of things they did was they fished, or they had shipbuilding and whaling, right? So we're going to put here, they did shipbuilding, fishing, whaling, right? So that's how they made their money. All right, guys, thanks so much. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.